Another job I've yet to really get around to look at is the bottom yoke of the triple tree. Triple tree? I think it's called a triple tree. You can tell I am not very proficient as a mechanic because I don't know what half the stuff's called. I threw this in a box when I disassembled the bike, and I gave it a quick go at removing this bottom race, this taper bearing, but it was a half-hearted effort, and it was such an oily, gammy bit of kit that I just thought, well, I'll stick that aside and worry about it later. Well, now is later, and whilst my desk is a bit of a tip, I think now would be a good time to have a look at it. The piece is not in bad condition, it's just really dirty. Looking at the front here, there's this mounting here. Now, strangely, it had a bracket that I don't really know what its function was for. It currently holds the horn, but the horn should be bolted to. If you can see that, there's a bracket, a bolt hole here, and the horn should be bolted to that. The item that sits there is, I believe, a plate that mounts the steering lock mechanism, and that is missing from this. Whatever it is, the current bike does not have a working steering lock. So the bits I'm missing are the bracket that fits in here, which has like a sort of heart-shaped loop and a vertical stand, and then I actually have a steering lock that bolts onto it. And then on the actual frame itself, there is like a plate, which is also missing on my bike, which is like a dish, and it allows the steering lock bolt to go behind it and lock the steering in one of two positions, I believe, left or right. So currently I am looking for that plate, and I am looking for the half moon dish, and you'd be surprised at how rarely they come up on eBay. You can get them in the States, but you pay a few quid for the part and about £1 bajillion for postage and packaging. So that is something I am after at the moment. So today's job is to disassemble this item here. There's a bolt at the rear. Again, that is one that I'm going to send off for plating if it comes out. Now, unlike the top part of the triple tree, this one remains silver or aluminium, so I am not going to be painting this one. I will have to clean it up, and I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do that. Maybe a series of wet and dry. I may God blimey governor, I'm not sure. I'll have to assess it once I've cleaned it up a little bit, and maybe try and get it a bit of polish on it. There we go. But obviously it does depend on whether this thing comes off or not. The whole thing has to come off up the shaft. Actually, that seat might actually be wanting to move. I'm getting some movement. You can tell I'm professional because I have no idea what I'm doing. If in doubt, use a bigger screwdriver. It just seems to want to walk it off. There's a little bit of movement every time I rotate it 90 degrees. I don't know if it's rocking or whether it's actually starting to. I'll think about that for a moment. I think I'm able to walk it off now. Using one screwdriver to butt up underneath it, and then twisting another one with a T-handle on it. I seem to have moved it another, I suppose, about an inch, I suppose, off the off the base, but it's still reluctant to move. It's not like flying off. I thought once it got moving it would want to come off easily. So it'll be fun getting this back on again. The other thing to do would be to just leave it on here and pretend it never happened, which is tempting right now. Okay, again we've got every tool in the workshop out on the bench. My faithful brass rod out, which may or may not be giving us some... Yeah, it seems to be working. Now that I can get an angle on it, I'm starting to see a bit more movement now. Okay, this probably won't focus, but somebody has dinged this at some point, and there's like a very high patch here where this is definitely not going to slide smoothly over that, and there's another little one just around here that I'm about to get to. So I'm just going to take my Dremel tool and just file that down. I don't quite know why it's there, but it is, and I've got to deal with it. Feels like I've taken the high spot off it. Certainly the burr has come away, so that might give us a run at taking that off. I wish it would just slide. It really is putting up a fight. Ah, there we go. Once it got past this gammy bottom bit, it hit this taper and pshing, straight off. Lovely. One less thing to worry about. Right, more fun and games. I am now going to attempt to take off this bottom yoke. It is keyed, so the shaft that it sits on has a flat that marries this flat section here, moulded into the casting. However, I think it's on there pretty tight. So I'm just going to gently tweak the apertures, see if we can just loosen that grip up slightly, and then I'm going to give it a wallop with the rubber mallet. I may have to do this on the concrete floor because I think there's too much spring in the desk, but we'll give it a go and see what happens. Oh, and timeout. We got that far. I think I've said it before, and I'll say it again, but I think my best tool is probably my brass rod, which was just a couple of quid off of eBay from a. I think it's not designed for this, but it was just a bit of bar stock you can buy off of eBay, and it's just so good for hitting things without damaging them. I'm not saying it's the answer to my solutions today, but given that I'm walloping aluminium, which might actually be softer than the brass, I'm not sure. It doesn't seem to be damaging it. Still going. Much. It is millimetre by millimetre working its way off, and I am now concerned about getting the bugger back on again. Success at last. That took a little bit of work, and yes, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't concerned about getting the damn thing back on again. But there we have it, one shaft, which is interesting because that, to me, is it an optical illusion or is that bent? I don't know whether it's just wear patterns or whether that looks bent. Very peculiar. I'll look into that a bit closer. It may have been worth taking it off after all. Okay, I'm not entirely sure I'm happy with this. I don't know, something about it says this isn't Honda standard unless there's some geometry trick that I'm unaware of. As far as okay. So I don't know if I'll ever be able to show it, but if I hold the ruler along the back side of the the front of the shaft, there is a clear gap at the top, but if I reverse it 90 degrees round and hold it, you can see the gap is further down, which means that this top inch and a half, or sorry, top inch I should say, is canted forward at the angle you're looking at it. If I reverse it, it's canted back. Now that suggests one of two things. Honda have a geometry plan that I don't understand, or this particular part has had a hell of a wallop at some point, possibly in a front end impact, and it has kind of, because it's supported by the bearing in the frame, it's driven it back. But if it did, that was one hell of a whack, because this is no lightweight piece of metal. It is solid. It must be, my goodness, I mean, it must be 4 mil thick, maybe? No, maybe not. 3 mil thick. It's quite substantial, and I guess this part might have been cast, so it is possible they could have cast a kink into it, but it seems odd. It seems very odd. So if anybody out there knows, can someone let me know, because that means that I have to replace this part as well as the bits on the front, and that might well set me back. So I did have to change the forks on the bike last year or the year before, because they were bananaed, which again suggests a front impact. So who knows? Who knows? That might be further evidence of that. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what to do about that right now. I think it's time for a cup of tea or a beer. Nah, a beer.